We're going to talk about DME arcs and what they are and how to do it, essentially. And so to start off, let me explain what a DME arc is. DME means distance measuring equipment. Essentially, it's distance. It's a set distance away from a fix, using a fix, typically a VOR, but it can be anything. It can be a GPS waypoint, it can be a localizer, it can be anything that can be pointed towards an NDB. And what you're doing is using it to circle around that fix. And what I mean by that is you've got, let's say, for example, a 10 nautical mile distance away from the fix, and you're just going to circle around that fix. It's basically an even spacing at a set distance. And so when we look at it in this particular example, let's say the Big Lake VOR is this blue hexagon with a dot, and we're 10 DME out, or 10 miles out essentially. And let's say ATC says arc east on the 10 DME. And so if I'm south of the VOR, I'm going towards the VOR. East would be to the right. And so what ATC is essentially saying is arc to the right and have an even 10 miles out the whole time around as you circle around. And if you notice here, I'm going towards the VOR, and then I'm going to turn right first towards east, then left, 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 all the way around. I'm arcing left all the way around until they tell me to do something else, essentially. So this is arc east on the 10 DME arc of the Big Lake VOR. So let's talk a little bit about the two steps. There are two ways to approach a DME arc. It depends on the direction you are flying. Are you flying towards the fix or away from the fix? Will depend on the rule of thumb that you're going to use. So we'll start off with going to the VOR. If you're going to the VOR, you'll first want to tune the VOR and make sure the flag is set to 2. You read the OBS, and if ATC says, for example, arc east, look at where east is on the OBS, and then that is the initial direction of the turn. So for example, if east is to the right of your OBS of the needle, you would turn to the right first. Then the next two directions that you're going to take care of is opposite. What I mean by that is you're going to, let's say you're flying to the VOR, your heading is 350. If you'll remember from VOR basics, and I'll remind you again, that's not the radial. If you're going to the VOR, you are on the reciprocal, on the tail of the VOR. That will be the radial you are on. That's not as important today, right now. We're going to the VOR, 350. We look at wherever east is. East happens to be on the right-hand side of this OBS or compass, if you want to think about it. Arc east, that means you're going to fly to the right first. Your first turn will be 90 degrees to your current heading. So if my current heading is 350 and they say arc east, I look, oh, east is on the right, then I forget that. I look directly to the right of that, and that's going to be my turn to the right. That's the heading I need to fly for a second there, 90, whatever that heading may be. In this case, it would be 080 actually. Then the two other turns are left, left, opposite to your initial turn. I'm turning right first, then after the needle centers, I'm going to turn left 10 degrees, twist the OBS 10 degrees to make it rotate to the left, and then once the needle recenters, repeat left turn 10 degrees. Okay, that's a lot of notes there. So let's look at it from the simulator, for example. So what did I say here? So I'm going to tune it in. Let's say I was flying 350. Remember, I said my heading, I look directly to the right. East is to the right, but 90 degrees, this 90 degree mark will be right here. My first turn will be 080. And then, essentially, I will turn the OBS so that it will turn left. See, this needs to turn to the left direction. So I'm actually twisting right, but I'm making it turn left. You could also think right, left, but I like to think of it as making this heading turn left. And then I'm going to turn left to a heading of 070. After the needle recenters, I'm going to turn it again, left 10 degrees. I can keep looking at this 90 degree mark, and that tells me what my heading should be. I should be flying a heading of 060. And that should give me an arc of 10 DME. So let's practice that. Let's put the airplane on roughly, let's first get it up in altitude, doesn't matter where, and going at, say, 100 knots. 350, so let's just make it where it was flying to the Big Lake VOR roughly. There you go. And let's put it all the way back here. All right, so now we're set. What I'm going to do is just set up the GPS, because I don't have a DME equipment. I don't have, actually I do, right here. This is what it would look like if you needed a DME. This is ADF, actually. I take that back. It doesn't have a DME. If you don't have a DME, if you don't have DME equipment, you have to use your approved GPS, IFR GPS. In this case, we'll use this GPS here. And we're going to go direct to the BGQ, which is the Big Lake VOR. Hit activate. And that tells me I'm 16.5 nautical miles away from the Big Lake VOR. So if I resume, I'm going to use the autopilot. I'm going to use my heading bug. So I'm flying a heading of 350. Big Lake VOR should be tuned in here. VLOC, so 122.5, so we'll switch that over. And you've got to double check if you've got a system where it's paired with the GPS versus VOR, you need to flick the switch. Usually there's a CDI switch right here. I don't know why it's not sticking to it. There you go. That's weird. Okay, so tune in to the VOR. And we're a little to the right of the VOR, so let's intercept it. So we'll go left just a touch. The needle is to the left. So we want to chase the needle if we're going to the VOR. And let's just say they said arc west. Let's throw it. Arc west on the 10 DME. So once this is center, west is on the left-hand side. But I need to look at 90 degrees from my current heading, which happens to be this current number right here, 260. So we'll fly a heading of 260 when we reach the 10 DME. The trick is, though, we want to do about half a mile. If you're about 100 knots, if you're an airplane that flies around 100 knots, give or take, you want to give a half a mile startup. So when you're half a mile away from your DME arc, you want to start that turn. So in this case, if ATC said 10 DME, I need to go at the 10.5 DME. So we're gonna just re-intercept the DME. In fact, I'm just gonna cheat a little bit and move the airplane just a touch to the right. There you go. So I'm 10.5 right there, and I'm going to start right now. So I'm going to start my turn to what I said, 260, left first, then right, right. So I'm going to twist this to make the OBS go to the right. So I want the next heading to be north, or 360. And then I'm going to turn right to a heading of 270. So right now I'm on the 10 DME. Once this needle centers or gets close to the center, that's when I'm going to start my right-hand turn. This whole time I'm doing my scan, watching my airspeed, my heading, my altitude, and then my navigation, making sure I'm within 10 nautical miles. See, the needle's starting to come in. I'm perfectly at 10. And here's where, if there's wind, you have to adjust. If I'm starting to drift away, I'd start cutting a little tighter to the right. Just get that turn right. So here you go. It's coming in close to the center line. I can start right about 1 needle's worth, 1 dot worth, I would say, to the next right-hand turn, which would be west. Then I'd twist this so that the OBS goes to the right. 010 is the next turn, or next radial, reciprocal radial I want to grab. And the same thing happens. You can see you're supposed to be within 1 nautical mile of your DME Arc instruction. So if you start drifting, you want to compensate for that. The whole time keeping your altitude. Let's say I want to be at 4,000 feet just to make it a nice even. I'm going to use my autopilot. I'm drifting a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and turn a little to the right early to my next heading of 280 right there, and twist this again to make the OBS, the compass card, go to the right to 020. And I'm going to give it a couple more degrees because I am drifting quite a bit. You're allowed to do that. There you go. I'm at 4,000, so I want to keep it at. Whoa. So keep in 10.4. My next heading is going to be 290. So I might even start even earlier. It just really depends on how quick you do things, and if you're starting to drift or out of sync. I might even skip ahead to the next turn, 300, and then wait till it comes in. So that's the concept there. If we take a look at the arc, see how it's perfect, or starting to look pretty decent, of a circle. Basically, they might say intercept the 240 radial inbound to the Big Lake VOR. So you'd keep arcing, and then when you get close to the 240, you turn right inbound. So for example, let's make it a little easier. To know what radial you are on, you read the tail. So I'm on the 210 radial right now. That's centering, so let's just do one more turn. 10 degrees, 10 degrees. And I'm keeping within 10.4 nautical miles. You can intercept even more if you'd like, but it just depends on what makes sense to you. All right, let's just say they say, and then intercept the 220 radial inbound to the Big Lake VOR. So I look at, I'm going to, 220 is my next, is the radial. I am grabbing, as this centers, I will be on the 220. So when it gets about halfway through the center line, I'm going to fly to the VOR, and now I have to look at the top, 040. I have to fly a heading of 040 into the VOR to be on the 220 radial, which is what the tail tells me to do. So I'm going to start turning now before I overshoot it to whatever the top says, 040, to be on the 220 radial. And now that that's centered and I'm on 040, that should fly me to the Big Lake VOR on the 220 radial. And that DME arc should start decreasing in value. So that's flying to the VOR. Let's say you are flying from. What's nice about from, it's all the same direction. So I'm flying away from a fix. So that's the concept there. And you would adjust. I would have done that a little earlier. I was a little late there. All right, so let's say if you're flying from the VOR, it essentially be right, 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 left, left, left. So turn left, twist left, turn left. Or turn right, twist right, turn right. Let me explain that. So let me move the airplane again away from the VOR. So let's say we're there. And we're going away from. So we're going from the VOR. So we're going to be pointing away from the VOR. So let's just say I'm going away. So right there. Okay. And let's keep that heading from. And let's twist the OBS to make sure it says from, because I'm going away from the VOR. And if I'm going from the VOR instead of to, this is the radial I am on. I am on the 250 radial away from the VOR. So I'm on the 250 radial, flying 250 at 4,000 feet. So let's just say they say arc north on the 18 DME. So when I'm now on the 15.6 going away, so it's going to increase. So the 18 DME, so 17.5 DME, I'm going to turn to the right first because north is on there. Then I'm going to twist the OBS to make this go to the right. So the next heading will be 260. So this is going to move to the right. And then I'm going to turn right a heading of, first turn right heading of, 340, 90 degrees. Twist this to the right so it goes to 260. And then twist it to, then go to the right after that to the next heading. So let's do that. 340 is my first right 90 degree turn at 17.5 to be at the 18 DME. I'm flying 250, I want to fly 90 degrees, so 340 at 17.5 right now. 340, so I'm turning right, looking at it, looking good, holding my heading at the same time. Twist right, so twist this to go to the right. So it'll be actually twisting this knob to the left, but I want the card to go to the right. There you go. My next heading is going to be 90 degrees, read the 90 degree marker. My next heading is going to be a 350. I'm turning to the right. I'm arcing to the right. Right, right, right. And I'm at the 18.5 DME, so I'm a little off because I'm going faster than 100 knots. I think the rule of thumb is every 5%. My heading should have been 350, sorry. That's the current heading you should be on, 350. And then twist to the right once it centers. My next heading is north, so we'll go to the north. We should be able to keep, give or take, 18.5 DME at this point. too early now, so we'll just go a little to the left because it's starting to creep in to a tighter DME arc. As this centers, we'll wait for it to center, because the further out you are, the slower this is going to center, because you've got a bigger circle that you're making, obviously. The tighter it is, the closer you are, the faster you're going to have to turn each heading and OBS setting and everything. So remember, I'm turning to the right, so this is going to have to twist to the right. And my next heading is 0, 1, 0. The trick is always to look at what this 90-degree marker is telling me to fly. Compensating for any drift or addition or being late or anything like that, you might want to adjust accordingly. So as I'm coming in, so we'll go ahead and shift out -10 at that point. It just depends on what makes the most sense to maintain the right distance. So you can see here, I was too late there and then too sharp. That's why we're getting all over the place with the arc. But the idea is you're turning and arcing nice and evenly across the ways. We're going to go ahead and speed it up just a touch. Twist this to the right, turn right, 10 degrees. Twist this to the right. We're going way faster now, obviously. Okay. You can see this is the arc. It's all about twist 10, turn 10, twist 10, turn 10, just depending on which direction we're twisting and turning. Now, if they tell us to intercept a radial inbound, you've got to look at the tail, because that's now telling you 2. So if they say intercept the, what would be the next one? 140 radial, so you're going to be flying or trying to fly a heading of 0. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm flying a 050 heading on this DME arc. And if they say fly the 140 radial inbound, you want to look at the tail. So that's what's coming up. As that centers, I'm going to fly 140 to go to the VOR, and then you want to twist this all the way to say 2 so you don't have reverse sensing. That is the extra step you've got to do if you're going away from the fix. All right, as it's coming in, so we start, remember, about half the deflection, which I'm a little late on again, just trying to multitask, and then twist this all the way to 140, so you're flying to the fix that they told you to, which is 140. There you go. And now we're flying to the Big Lake VOR. Well, technically it'd be the 320 radial, but we're flying to the Big Lake VOR 140 heading. So they'd say intercept the 320 radial inbound. And it's always the radial going away from the Big Lake VOR. All right, that's just an introduction. We're going to do more and practice more and just keep doing. Once you do it a few times, you'll get the hang of it and get the idea of what you're looking at. You're looking at your heading, your altitude, your VOR radials, and your DME. That's essentially it. Making sure you're also tuned to the right VOR, obviously, is very important.